I officially call this budget hearing to order at 6:02 on July 28th. Deb, do you want to kick us off?
Yes. I have one comment. It was the most delightful budget series of meetings that I have ever had in 16 years. Wonderful energy, wonderful ideas, and it's going places. The first thing you're all captive audiences at every meeting, so the council is well aware of its budget. And so you have your document. There are things we have to do to comply and make sure you get your state funding. And one of those is resolution 2025-01. I already sent them this form LB50. This gives them, it tells the county what we're getting property taxes and how much. But they also need this resolution. So short and sweet. Whereas it be resolved, property taxes are hereby approved for the 2025-26 budget year according to the ballot measure passed May 16th, 2023, and expires in the final year of 2028. Whereas be it resolved that the taxes imposed are hereby categorized for the purpose of any or all general fund operations at $1.50 per thousand assessed value. Therefore, it's hereby ordered because of the essences and emergency requires the immediate passing of this resolution. Did you want to call for a roll vote to pass this budget?
I would like to make a motion that we accept resolution 2025-01 as written.
How do you do a roll call vote?
Andrea, then
Okay.
I call on you and you
Oh,
place your vote.
gotcha.
One at a
Okay.
time. Andrea, what would you like to say?
I vote yay.
And Stacy?
Yay.
All right, let the minutes show that resolution 2025-01 has been approved unanimously.
Okay.
Fantastic.
So the second one that you get to do for our city is basically you're going to go through the same thing. It says a resolution to adopt the budget for 25-26. And be it resolved that the city of Shaniko hereby adopts the budget for the fiscal year 25-26 in the total of, and it's hard to even say this number, $846,000, $846,350. Something like that. Anyway, so big. Now on file at City Hall. And be it resolved that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2025, and for the purposes shown below are hereby appropriated. Each budget fund is listed and its total appropriated. There again, because we did this in 1 month, less than 1 month, and we are late 1 month. But therefore it is hereby ordered because of the essences an emergency requires the immediate passage of this resolution. And above that says it's adopted this day, 28th day of July.
I apologize, but do we have copies of that?
I don't see any.
I've not seen it. I might have put it in my stack of papers here. Did I? Do you have it?
I don't, but Deb,
That's
if you,
hers.
It's okay.
yeah, if you pass that over, we'll take a look at
Yeah,
it.
yeah, that's fine.
No,
I'm
I
having a hard
copied.
time finding
Oh, I had to go to the other machine.
it. Okay.
Sorry.
On the other machine.
I didn't close the door of the firehouse.
Leave that open a little bit more. Can you see out?
Yeah, we have a plug malfunction on the big one.
Thanks, Deb.
That's Mom.
Is that phone working?
It did not work. So it's the line. It's the line. There you go.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for reminding me of that.
All right, so what I'm seeing is a reflection of the budget meetings that we had, breaking down that the general fund administration is 456,950. The fire fund is set at $219,500. The water fund is at $720,000. Sanitation fund at $30,500. Schoolhouse fund at $47,000. and tourism fund at $20,400. And some of these numbers project possible grants that we might be getting, and donations that we're going to solicit in partnerships that we're working on. Looking over this, the numbers match up to what we talked about. Is there a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Is there a second?
I'm not sure about all the numbers exactly, because I don't have my papers here.
I think that the finalized one is that stack right there, if you wanna look through it.
I don't remember over 200,000 to go in the fire department, but maybe I just wasn't paying attention.
Go ahead and flip through. Second page?
Yeah, I'm on page 3 here for Resources Fire Fund. And what we have here, are you on the page, Stacy?
Yes, I found it now.
Cool. So I'm just taking a look at it along with you. In the middle, we've got the resource description. And the column immediately to the right was the initial proposed budget by the officer. And then to the right of that was the number that we discussed, and we moved a couple of things as a budget committee to prepare for maybe getting some more monies in some areas and less in others. So we're allowing for donations to meet and not exceed $6,000. The staffing grant, if we get that again for next year, will be $35,000, which is an amount that the state helps us out with. It's not necessarily direct income that we need to depend on. So some of these things explain why the numbers may seem a little higher than we're used to seeing. I'll give you a second to look over that.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Sorry, 13?
Yep.
Self-contained breathing apparatus grant, why did we, I'm so sorry, why did we do that?
That is not a problem. I'll field that, and then Deb, if you have something to add, you can add it after the fact. So each of these line items, if they were listed in a previous year, we have to continue to list them until they're zeroed out. And so some of these items that were listed by the previous administration, I think were grant wishes. And so this is called self-contained breathing apparatus grant. I don't think that's an actual grant that you apply for. I think it was like maybe a wish list item.
Okay.
But that said, we did agree to put $85,000 there, so we can search around the web and make some contacts with the fire marshal to see if there's anything like that that might exist.
Okay.
Deb, did I leave anything out?
No.
Okay.
It's a basic, very big wish list.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah.
What other questions do we have here?
It's really me.
And so again, as we go through it, it doesn't mean that we're going to have 2019 and 5. That is hard.
It doesn't mean that. But
It doesn't mean we're going to get that. It means that we have the possibility and we can't exceed it. If we get to the point where we're going to go above the budget, then we've got a special process that we need to go through. So it's maybe better to set on the high side so that way we can allow for those funds to come in if we are able to secure them.
Because it's almost a 2-month process to do a supplemental budget.
And we don't need the headache.
So that, yeah.
Although if we do get extra money and we need to
It'd
go
be
through
worth
that,
it.
I don't mind.
Yeah.
It'd be worth it.
yeah, I'll second that motion.
Okay. I would like to open it up. Is there any public comment from the audience before we go ahead and vote? Forrest.
I just want to clarify that those those numbers are basically just a ceiling, metaphorically, and that there's not, like, if it says there's 219 grand on that line, that doesn't mean the fire department has 219 grand in a bank account.
That's correct.
It's kind
But
of
on
like
an excellent date
it's
or
like
year,
if we did this.
1959.
Right.
So that's a little confusing when you look at it, because you're like, how is there, these numbers are so huge? It's kind of like a wishful budget.
Yeah.
That has been a
Yeah.
misconception in the past.
Yeah, I get that. That's good.
Good explanation.
Thank you. Anything else? Well, we've got a motion, we've got a second on the table. All in favor of passing resolution 2025-03 as written, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Okay, let the minute show that the resolution 2025-03 has been passed unanimously as written and proposed.
Is that 03? Mine says 01 also.
Oh my gosh, so good.
That was the first one.
Yeah, there are two.
Oh, yeah.
Give this to him in case he has a duplicate.
Yeah, I do have a duplicate.
Oh my goodness sakes, he does. You get to have two.
All right. And that's the paper I read aloud from at the beginning.
Okay. Yeah, that's the right resolution, thank you.
Good, good. All right, Deb, where do we go next?
You done?
Okay, that was easy enough. I'll call this budget meeting to close at 6:13 on July 28th. But don't go anywhere, folks, because we have a special meeting coming right back up. All right, let's shift gears here.
You guys got things?
Yeah, we'll
It says
second.
at the bottom.
Yeah.
Budget hearing. And before we begin, there should be some printed items somewhere on the table with the next paperwork collection. And if anybody in the galley would like some, there's someone to the hand sanitizer if you'd like to take a gander.
There you go. I'm sorry.
What am I having? What is this?
Seeing if you're paying attention.
All right. Well, moving forward, I call this special meeting to order at 6:14 on July 28th. Let's start with the council roll call. Pamela Brown, council president.
Enrique Gold, counselor?
Stacy Wilson, counselor.
Deborah Holbrook, interim recorder.
Okay, I think we can call it there. We don't need to go through the audience and continue doing that. All right, so the main reason for calling this special meeting is to introduce a guest. This is Jamie. She's a land use planner of, is it Bell Design?
Bell Design Company. Yes.
Bell Design Company. And I'm going to ask you to speak a little bit in just a moment and introduce yourself and talk about some of the vision areas that we were talking about in regards to this grant that we're hopeful on. So please.
Yeah. Do you guys mind if I remain here, or do you want me to
You
sit?
can be anywhere.
Wherever you're comfortable.
Come on up to this. There you go.
All right.
Got the microphone right close before you better over that way.
So, my name's Jamie Crawford. I've worked as a land use planner for the last, oh boy, probably 8 years now. I was working with Dan Meter, who has worked for I don't know how long in Shaniko, but a good amount of time. His one of his other close coworkers was Dan DeRoe, who wrote the city's first comprehensive plan back in 1978. And then Dan has worked on some code updates for you guys. I think, well, the last one being in 1987.
That's
so
right.
it's been a long time since your code has been touched. Your comprehensive plan has never been touched. And there is, well, so the state, the Department of Land Conservation and Development, they offer grant opportunities for communities to update their zoning codes and maps and their comprehensive plans. But we have to ask for that funding for the city. They have a bucket that is distributed by region, so not all of the funding gets stuffed into, Western Oregon. Which is awesome. So your regional rep is Angie Brewer, and she runs the region all the way from Wasco down to Cape Falls. So this huge swath. And then further east, it's Dawn Hurt. So she runs everything from Sherman County to Malheur and then down. But I think Shaniko, because you guys haven't asked for funding and haven't applied for grants in quite a long time, and you haven't updated anything, there are a lot of changes. State statutes have obviously been altered since 1987, quite a bit. I don't know if you guys are super familiar with what's happening at the state right now in the last 5 years or so. Okay. So the governor's push is all about housing, and getting housing production through. And so they're really throwing money for cities to update their codes and stuff to allow different housing types. And because you guys are so small, you're missing, thankfully, you're missing some state mandated marks that they have for larger jurisdictions. So I think the mark starts at if you're over 10,000 population, you have to do to allow duplexes in single family zones. And then if you're, I think it's 2,500 and above, you have to allow ADUs, so accessory dwelling units in your residential zones too. I do see the way that the legislature is kind of running. It's like they're dipping their toes into things, but then are eventually probably going to require all jurisdictions to, you know, kind of come into this more inclusive housing sort of element, which I've done 2 grants in the previous year, one for Arlington and then one for Morrow, where we updated their comp plan and their zoning code, and they are both under the 2,500, but in speaking with their council and with their community, what I found is they want less regulations on what types of housing, as long as you're meeting certain standards, so like bulk and like design or appearance. So they didn't care if an individual had 2 different houses on their property, as long as they were providing the same amount of parking, if they were meeting setbacks, if their public works, you know, their water sewer wasn't overdrawn or affected in any way. They just kind of want to open things up to the market more. And I actually just processed an application for the Arlington School District, where they had a piece of property just south of their school, and to attract more teachers, they wanted to place, and I just permitted them to place 3 manufactured homes on a single lot, and the lot was like 2.5 acres. So essentially it looks like from, you know, without somebody looking at a map and looking at property lines, it just looks like 3 different homes that they're allowed to have. And by allowing the school to do that, it reduced permitting costs for them to go hire a surveyor to go out there to make sure that they could cut up the land in the right way, and then having 3 individual permits, we could just do it all in one. So it's great for the school. It's going to be awesome for them to get teachers there. It's all about sort of reducing the permitting costs and the onerous on the developer or on your, you know, your landowners, to be able to have more freedom for what you guys want to do.
What's the population of
That's excellent.
Arlington is I think 430.
400.
430. Yeah, they're not in the, and then Morrill I think is a little bit less. Don't quote me on those exact numbers, but they're both kind of around the same. Between like 380 and like 450.
Yeah, I used to live in Arlington. So
Okay.
yeah. I exactly know what piece of property you're talking about too.
Really?
So that's actually very cool. Yeah.
Yeah, right across from the cemetery.
Yeah.
No, they're super happy about it.
Yeah.
But that wouldn't have happened had these code updates that we went through hadn't have been
Right.
passed and gone through.
You're right. That is a big headache. All that you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. So, reading through your zoning ordinance and talking with Pam, there seems like there's a need to update your code to meet certain state statutes that all jurisdictions need to meet. So one of them that would apply to you guys is previously jurisdictions were able to provide or able to have design standards strictly for manufactured dwellings on individual lots. So they had to be double sectioned, they had to have pitched roofs, they had to have skirting, they had to have not pit set, what's the other one? Like an actual foundation, right? And so now the state is saying that regardless of if a home is built off-site or built on-site, you need to apply the same regulations. So in Arlington, what we did is we created some design standards that, like a menu that people could choose from. Like pick 2 out of these different, like 12 different things, just so that people aren't building a box and then trying to put, cram people into it. But that applies to all of their housing types, not just singling out manufactured. And so in that way, it's sort of improving building for single family construction, as well as people that, bring in manufactured units. And I mean, on top of that, people bringing in a manufactured unit, they still need to meet the manufactured building code that kind of lives outside of your guys' regulations. It's state building codes and stuff. So there's still those safeguards against somebody, buying up old homes from 1978 and trying to drop them in, right? Which I worked in the city of Ontario. Sorry.
I was wondering, are they just for new housing or for the houses that are already there?
Just new housing.
Okay.
So any sort of housing that exists right now, if it doesn't conform to your code, it's fine.
It's kind of grandfathered in.
Yeah, so we call it non-conforming.
Okay.
But if someone wanted to come in and like add add an addition or something, then we would probably look at it like, all right, so do you have those 2 parking spaces? And then if not, just show me on a piece of paper like where you plan to park.
Okay.
What you don't wanna do is have something like that create a situation where someone doesn't want to make an addition on their property, because then, then if their setback is not correct and they've grandfathered in, then if you touch your building, now you have to just lop off your, do extra things. And
Oh yeah, no, we would never. So the regulation. So if, let's say, there's it's typically like a 20-foot setback to allow people to park in the front. If a home was closer than that, like 10 feet, and they wanted to add on to it, we're not going to ask them to reduce their house by 10 feet.
right.
That's not going to happen.
Right.
But that add-on should be set back that 20 feet.
I moved up here from California, and that was a thing.
Some
I've
jurisdictions,
seen
Some
that.
jurisdictions that
they'll
people
make you conform.
right.
No.
The state's not looking to do that.
No. Not, oh my gosh. I have seen a couple of houses like in Clackamas County that are straight up like just cut off. Yeah, it's nuts. Like, who in their right mind thinks that that's okay? California, evidently.
Could you talk a little bit, if we were awarded this grant, what would the process look like
Sure.
for spending the funds and for getting these things taken care of?
Yeah, so so applying for the grant, I would love to prepare it for free for you guys. And it's due August 4th, so in about a week, which is why I'm here and I'm so happy you have a special meeting right now. And then if the city is chosen, then those sort of contracts and kind of setting everything up with the state would happen through the end of the year for the grant work to start January 2026. And then that cycle runs from January 2026. We have until May 2027 to get all the work done. So, and in that time frame, we can, we can push things through. We can go at your pace. It's really however the city wants to do that. The state just wants these grants to wrap up within that time frame. So then, the next grant cycle will kind of come around for applying for things. And that work and that sort of public, so anytime you ask money from the state, they want public engagement, right? It's the cornerstone. And that is really creating that sort of like public engagement plan or that sort of outreach is up to each jurisdiction, what works for you guys, what works best. So obviously involving the fire station or, some of your other like business owners that are around in here, having an open house that sort of explains in more detail like what is an accessory dwelling unit.
People
Like,
can ask questions.
exactly. Yeah. Having things on Zoom or having, council sessions. So what Arlington and Morrow chose to do is they created a technical advisory committee, which was access. Well, so the thing with Arlington is they have a planning commission. So their planning commission essentially became that committee, and we just kind of worked through them, and then they added like one or two other people, like somebody, or oh my gosh, I can't remember her
Well,
name.
Arlington's 20 times our population.
I know. So
There's no staff.
yes, no, I know.
We do have people who would be interested in participating who aren't
Yeah.
present, so we would have a
That's
good turnout for that.
But a
Which is
planning and
awesome.
building services department is not something that.
No.
No, I'm sure they don't expect that.
No, not at all. But like having a point person that's here in the community that can kind of like, all right, we're gonna do a meeting on this day, and we're gonna like go through this section of your code together, have it open to the public. So essentially, the first so for the grant work, one of the first steps is defining like those dates and how that public outreach would function for Shaniko. And then really the next step is kind of on me to look through your code, to point out things that are no longer legal for the state.
Period.
Yeah. But then also things that maybe Shaniko would be interested in kind of tweaking or changing. I know talking with Pam, there might be some interest in doing some zone changes. So right now, I don't know, that's not a zoning map, is it? No, that's just addresses. Well, right now you guys have essentially it's a very low density zone. It's called the residential agricultural zone. I think that's in your code.
Right behind you, right there is the map that shows the flat, and then the agriculture areas are
Oh,
north and south, and one piece on the east.
Do you need a copy of that? Or
No.
Oh, okay.
No, I actually, I have one from.
Oh, good.
Pam sent one over to me.
Good.
And I should have printed it out, but my printer was on the fence too.
Must be yours.
So that ag zone, even though it's within your guys' urban growth boundary, so you guys have jurisdiction over it, it's pretty restrictive on what you can and can't build, or what, it has to be related to some sort of like a farm use, or if it's not, then there's a different process. And so doing some zone changes related to that, or kind of just eliminating that zone, that could be an option too.
Rezone.
Yeah, rezoning things. So there's I know with Morio, they wanted to focus on their comprehensive plan, so we did both their updated their zoning code and their comp plan, and that sounds like sort of the direction that Pam wants to kind of go into for the city, because your comp plan again hasn't been touched since it was created. So and when we did that, we created a new zone, which is their public or open space zone, to sort of take public buildings like the county court. It's never not going to be the county court. So we took it out of a residential zone and we just put it in a public zone, so it has its own standards related to that. And then what that does is, when the city then, if ever, decides to go back and do what the state requires is a residential buildable lands inventory, then those properties can no longer count as being potentially redevelopable. That courthouse is never not going to be that courthouse, right? And so they have, as they develop, 10, 20 years down the line, they may have an opportunity to expand their urban growth boundary as their populations grow. So Yeah, I feel like I'm getting into the weeds on things.
Sure, I
but-
thank you for doing that a little bit, because
Yeah.
I like that you know what you're doing.
Well, thank you for that, Andrea.
I know in talking with Commissioner Brady and then Kelly Housley Glover from the county, they were maybe open to doing some in-kind help as well. So I don't know if that plays into a benefit in the grant writing, or if you could talk about, and you might not be prepared for this question, but what number are we kind of looking at, and will that affect what we can do?
So, the state always likes when you pony up money to show that you're not going in,
Yeah.
you know. But in-kind contributions is definitely something that they factor in as well. For Arlington and for Morrow, the grants were roughly like 40, I think 45, and then 50 grand. And so, but those communities were able to give, 5,000 in kind. I don't think Shaniko needs that. I think that we could realistically get work done, like probably somewhere around like 30 grand.
Yeah.
But it also depends on how much outreach you guys want to do. And for these types of things, the longer that it runs, the more cost that's kind of associated with it. So I don't know, like, like building a house or something, like the longer that the contractor is kind of fiddling with things, the more costs are kind of incurred over that time period. So a shorter window is less money, and kind of having things go boom, boom, boom.
Because it's been so long since things have been updated,
Mhm.
is that going to play a factor in what we might spend?
Yes. Yeah, because there's a lot more to update. However, I feel like
That might not be the part of it that takes long.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
I think there's a wealth of knowledge in this community, and you guys seem really easy to get a hold of. So
First time I've been late.
We know where they live.
Yeah.
What about the length of time it's been? Would that increase the likelihood that we would get awarded the grant?
Yes,
That's
yes.
what I thought.
And Pam's already been talking with the DLCD rep, Angie Brewer, so
Great.
you guys are on Wasco's,
On their radar.
yeah, you're on the radar.
She gives me a little winky.
Oh,
I think
good.
people have not, I think there's been an active movement to not update and avoid
Yeah.
any contact with the outside world.
I agree with that.
This is a bubble here.
Yeah.
We have a historic district though. And within that's very important to
Mhm.
this town, and that's our, essentially what that's why we're promoted, that's why people visit, that's why
Yeah.
they want to live here. So that said, and I'm on the extreme end of that,
Mhm.
preserving. And so that it comes a little bit from that attitude he's mentioning. Within that historic district, we'd like to see the protections for some of the things that we don't do setbacks.
Yeah.
Things like that. And so, but our zoning ordinance is separate from the piece they added when we had that historic district pass. And so it gets lost a lot of times in city government, because to have a historic district in a city like this is 1/3 of your job as a council. And when you get councils that ignore that, or you have people not read that, and they start to pressurize in the areas of history, and try to make people comply to the things that you're talking about, that in the other parts of the town, you would have those same setbacks, you would have fencing, limitations and all those kinds of things. I'd love to see the incorporation of those two in one, so that none of those things you have the what is it you call it, the when you I can't even think of the word, but anyway, that you have the definitions within the historic district that you don't have to comply to.
It sounds like that they're pretty sensitive about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, and we can marry those.
Yes.
So, and whether that's creating its own. So there's two ways to kind of to bring that to be, like creating its own zone so that you know that these properties.
It's up there.
Oh yeah. Okay. So, because those are two ways the federal government manages those historic districts are either creating like these properties or these corridors are defined historic, or they do piecemeal and do this house or this building. So we could either have create the city its own zone, or we could do an overlay that has those additional kind of protections where the base zone says what you can kind of do in it. But if that overlay is on top, then the overlay kind of those more restrictive provisions apply, or less restrictive, right? So if if you don't have a setback, or like if they're allowed to do fencing, that can kind of can supersede.
It seems like what Deb might be referring to is that at some points in the past, is the reading of the code is they're looking at the buildings in the historic district and going, well, it says you have to do this. When Deb's saying there's a whole nother section over here that it doesn't really refer to.
Yeah.
Because they're not married together. It's not a digestible, linear, readable document.
It is a little clunky.
It's a little non-linear and clunky about the way it.
Yeah, and so when things are non-linear, that leaves a lot of discretion to who is your counsel.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So having like a exact, if somebody with that historic, wanted to do some building changes or some upgrades inside, then they wouldn't have to meet the setback and like have a fence or whatever. So it's kind of there's a way to marry them to remove those ambiguities.
Yeah. To make things
When
more
there
clear.
needs to be a rebuild of something, because we have a project on hold, and the previous council stalemated that, requiring him to set back a building that wasn't set back, that he's trying to restore.
It's in the historic district.
It's in the historic district, and so they were pressuring, and that's what you're, it
Yeah, if
needs
you want to do
definition.
that,
Yes.
So to protect it.
It sounds like we'll be able to cross a lot of these bridges if we're able to get the funds, so
Yeah.
feeling pretty good.
So let's,
And you've got 25% of the town right here.
I-
When you
I-
talk about
30.
engaging the public,
I just
you know,
got it.
you might get 40% turnout.
Jamie, do you have any questions for us since you've got us here?
Honestly, I can't think of anything.
All right.
I mean, I've looked at your stuff. Like, you've been awesome and very receptive to kind of work with, and so I think that you guys, I feel bad in the last year and a half. Like, even though Dan has technically been your guys' planner, there hasn't been like much things that have happened, so I haven't been able to like engage with you guys.
this is a good
We're
time.
happy to have you.
I'm really excited to be here. Yeah.
Right on time.
Well,
We
very
won't,
good.
we won't
Yeah.
ghost you.
With that, Deb, I'm taking a look at this resolution, which doesn't have a number at the top yet. Do we want to give it a name now, or should we call it by the phrase and add the resolution number afterward?
We should
Well,
start.
you sandwich it between the two we just did.
So that would be
Oh,
02.
two.
You could put 2025 02.
Perfect. I'll do that.
2502 is the number.
Yeah, dash
yeah.
02.
2025-02.
And the only
Oh,
reason
gotcha.
that I say that is because as she had printed this one, and I didn't realize the number wasn't on it, because I was writing the third one
They worked out.
an hour ago or so, and I thought, well, this will have to be 03. So that's the reason it's gonna just in the book,
It worked out.
Yeah. So taking a look at this resolution, the kind of meat and taters says that we, as the city of Shaniko, authorize a city staff consultant to prepare the application for this housing planning assistant grant program, allowing her to act on our behalf, and we'll be able to take a look at what she's doing and stay connected on it. And Jamie's offered to do this pro bono, so we're appreciative of that. But that's kind of the meat and taters, and Jamie spoke to a lot of the other items of what the grant would be used for, some of the items that beg the spending of this money to bring things up to compliance and whatnot. So is there, with those things in mind, is there a motion to approve resolution 2025-02? In fact, I'd like to make that motion. Pro Tem Mayor, it's a juggling. We're gonna get a mayor soon.
To second it.
So a motion and a second. Are there any questions or discussion before we jump through?
Is that public? as
Well, let's start with
sure,
council first, and then we'll jump into public.
And were we about to marry these, like she was asking?
Oh yeah. So that's something that in the grant
It's good
application, I can make that very clear that that's the intention.
Okay.
Yes.
But we're voting for her to.
To give it the old college try, and then if we get the money, then we'll have a bigger discussion. Before we take the vote, I do want to open up to the public for any questions before we vote on it, and then if we have any more questions, we can chat it through as well. Yeah.
I was just gonna say, just to be clear, what you guys are doing right now is you're authorizing Jamie to apply for the grant.
Yes.
That's it.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. Any other questions, comments?
We need affordable housing. I know the whole state needs it, the whole West Coast needs it. I heard something to the tune of we are 2 million units shy of actual housing for people, and a lot of that is on the affordable end. And we're a really good candidate for that. Is there anything we can do to make things easier and less red tape to build housing? I'm all for that.
With that said, I'll bring it back. The motion, and there was a second. Are we ready to vote on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, let the minutes show that resolution 2025-02 has passed unanimously.
Wonderful.
Great.
Great.
Deb, anything
Thank
else
you.
we need to add here?
Yeah, that's,
Great. All right, well, I'm going to call this special meeting to close at 6:44 p.m. on July 28th. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Jamie.
Yeah.
Thank you. Are you a grant writer?